unit. This is on socio-political and policies in terms of diaspora. So again, as I keep repeating, I pick up most of the content from the SLM, but at certain places where I think either the SLM is not explaining properly, or I can pick up some content from outside which will explain the SLM, I do that. And our procedures or operating procedure is very simple. At any moment of time, you need to add something. There is something that which you think will be value adding to the rest of the class. Please stop me. The stopping is either raise your hand or just interrupt, not an issue. And uh, you know uh, tell your part or ask a question. That way it becomes much more interactive. And again, scholarly and academic pursuits are about perspectives. These are not about right, wrong, good, bad, whatever. These are about perspectives, and each person has a different perspectives. And that's how we enrich our understanding of a subject, by having multiple perspectives. Okay, are we done?
Yes, sir, you are like
Okay,
that.
okay. So let me start with the presentation. There is a process I need to go through. Uh, Hang on. And let me stop the share and start the share again. Okay, guys, can you see my presentation and can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So we are talking about this is Unit 44, Evolution of India's Diaspora Policy. And this block is about politics of migration and policies on diaspora. And over a period of time, for the new people who have joined this class, we have talked earlier at the fact that, with transnationalism and with this frequent migrations and diasporas, and now with this globalization and faster connectivity, uh, i- in all, there is a set of view which says that the role of the state is diminishing. But actually, the role of the state is not diminishing. The role of the state remains intact, because the state has the power to exclude people from coming inside, or for them leaving the country. So state becomes still a great force, and any policy done by the state impacts everyone. Those people who want to leave, and those people who want to come in. So the state still has a great role. State is still all powerful, irrespective of the fact that there are certain scholars who say that the geographic the contours of borders are changing. It's become more malleable. People can move. That's not the case. Policies do make a difference, and policy is done by the state. So let's look at how the India's diaspora's policy evolved. Are you able to see my slide changing? Guys, are you able to see the slide change?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So these are the objectives of the SLM: pre-independence, post-independence, in terms of shifting policy, how it worked out. India, remember, has the largest diaspora population. In fact, India also has the largest remittances, which come in because of its diaspora. So India diaspora has been categorized into NRI, PIO, and OCI. This is how it works out. Immigrants retain their Indian nationality but continue to live overseas. They are called NRIs. PIO is a person whose ancestor was an Indian national and is presently holding another country's citizenship nationality. India does not have a dual nationality system. So if you pick up the citizenship of another country, you have to surrender the citizenship of India. So these are persons of Indian origin. And there is a term called Overseas Citizen of India, OCI. A person registered as overseas citizen under Section 7A of Citizenship Act is granted overseas citizenship of India. In 2016, 31 million with 17 million PIOs and 13 million NRIs. That's GOI 2018 figures. So we have a huge population outside the country. So pre-independence, how the diaspora, and inevitably, every time you need to figure out why things are as they are today, one has to go back a little bit back into history to see how things evolved. Remember, nothing evolves overnight. It takes over a period of time for things to evolve, especially which involves state, which involves bureaucracy. Unless there is a drastic, event which happens, which gets things to change. Otherwise, things evolve and everything new comes on the old. With the ban on slavery, British became faced labor shortage. They started the process of indentured labor. Now, the British government was directly involved in process of emigration and deliberately chose poor peasants and untouchable. It was not that other classes or castes did not go out as indentured labor, but predominantly the focus was on poor peasants and untouchables, as they were easily convinced to move out due to their economic as well as social condition. And British very smartly, their process of immigration was till the workers boarded the ship. After that, they were not concerned. Were mostly sent to Guyana, Trinidad, Tobago, Mauritius, Suriname, and places like Malaysia, Sri Lanka. All these places have endangered Indian labor, where they face severe exploitation and violation of rights. We have seen this over a period of last few units. This is what happened. Inhumane conditions of indentured laborers forced to sign a contract. And remember, most of them were illiterate, understanding the terms of the contract. Any breach in terms and conditions put them in great trouble. Issues of residence right, poor working conditions, long working hours, racial discrimination, proportionate representation, and so on and so forth. So obviously, it was, if you look at the modern terms of their conditions, it was almost like human trafficking, because obviously they were taken out by deceit. Indian National Congress was the largest political party at that time, made persistent efforts to elevate the suffering, demand equality of rights, and fair at par treatment. Sorry, pressurized colonial government. Yes, sorry, pressurized colonial government to act against exploitation, popularize the problem and issue of labor. Remember the fact that Indian National Congress had very limited, leeway that time, because India was a colony, miserable conditions, and also pressed for a ban of recruitment by the government. So, Indian National Congress was the initial policies and attempts. Under pressure from INC and families of laborers, colonial government did bring some reforms. Commissions were formed, though the conditions did not change drastically. It was demanded that immigrant workers may be allotted land and allowed to work. Now, here the politics comes into the picture, because even if the commission said that immigrant workers would be allowed land and allowed to work as free, remember they were working under some private or other master, and they were working in a place which had their own local people. All these conditions did not allow the indentured laborers condition to improve. So irrespective of the fact that the commission said, the conditions did not improve. Now, Mahatma Gandhi obviously had a great role to play when he was in South Africa. He struggled for the cause of Indians. Government of Natal province made strict rules of disenfranchisement in 19. In fact, South Africa was a perfect case where there were many laws which were formulated which went against the Indians. There was this Black Act in Asian law exploited the overseas Indians, resisted the exploitations, defied the Discrimination Act, and led Satya. the whole process of non-violence in Satyagraha, Gandhi, fine-tuned it in South Africa before he came to India. Indian diasporas belonged to the place of their settlement and were a resident of that colony, hence did not take the problem of Indians and Africans seriously till 1914. In fact, even after independence, but you will need to understand how the understanding of the diaspora in India, the Indian state, as well as the world over, changed with the advent of globalization, with faster means of transportation and global connectivity. Previously, more often than not, diasporas were considered as those people who had left their, motherlands or fatherlands or whatever, and they were traitors, where they were looked at as traitors. With globalization, suddenly the states tended to realize the fact that diasporas were a great assets for them across the world. The British officials were concerned about addressing the concerns of white settlers and not that of Indians. And remember, the British had no moral authority because they themselves were exploiting Indians in India. Just a second. So more often than not, uh, it was actually the British did come under pressure because of the political thing, concerns of diaspora. Gandhiji was concerned for Indians across the globe. He looked at the indentured laborers. In fact, he visited a lot of places. By the 20th century, with united efforts of Gandhiji and other political leaders, some positive changes were being witnessed. Concerns of racial discrimination and other serious grievances in several international meetings and conferences of Indian international organizations such as League of Nations. So it was constantly highlighted that political pressure does make a difference. However, because India was a colony and Indian National Congress was fighting for independence itself, the state, as was led by the British, were not very concerned about the Indian conditions abroad. Sent a number of missions to countries like Fiji, Malaya, Ceylon, Zanzibar, and South Africa. A separate Department of Overseas India was set up. So again, as I said, whatever we see currently mostly gets built on what was there earlier. Inevitably, everything new has to be built on something old. There was a Department of Overseas Indians. In fact, lately, a Department of Overseas Indians was set up, which was then merged with External Affairs Ministry. This was in 1929. This department maintained links with overseas Indians, uh, were affiliated with INC, with overseas, maintained that overseas citizens should be given rights to citizenship in the country of the settlement. So there was this active lobbying by INC with various countries. Remember, a lot of these countries themselves were occupied, they were colonized, they were not free countries. And Indian National Congress itself was fighting for independence from the British. On the other hand, did not make any practical or substantial efforts to emancipate the workers. Why would they? Because for a simple reason, they themselves were, exploiting the Indians in India when South Africa enacted the Pegging Act of 43. Pegging Act was you could not purchase lands, disenfranchise, you could not, stay in white neighborhoods, which the Pegging Act was the precursor to the apartheid, the policy of apartheid. Because British were themselves subjugating the Indian population. So this was one of the reasons. It was not a matter of concern. Started incorporating in its reason struggle the demand of emancipation of overseas Indians. So if you see, we have gone through a circle. So we started off by understanding that all these people who had gone out, migrated forcefully or voluntarily, what we call diasporas, were a part of the country. Subsequently, we shifted into the fact that we said that whoever is in whichever country belongs to that country and should be loyal to that country. And we have come back into saying that uh, all Indians globally are a part of India as an extended family. Achievement of India's independence was considered as an important prerequisite for the MNC. So finally, everybody got around to understanding the fact that till the time India got independence, the Indian state would not be able to push for the emancipation or protection of Indians across the world because the British India was not interested. And in this regard, the Indian diaspora in developed countries started supporting India's independence. So possibly they were not that much invested in India's independence once these guys had moved abroad, but then subsequently they started supporting. 40, the system of indentured labor was finally scrapped. 1940, 47 is what India got independence. So let's look at the post-independence policy. Was on building a self-sufficient country, develop a strong foreign policy. In fact, Nehru came up with non-aligned movement. And in the 70s or 80s, there was this Cold War which was starting, and that non-aligned movement, which India was initiator, helped India tide over this complex world where there were two poles. There was the USA and there was the USSR, which subsequently broke up into Russia and other countries. But all people, all countries which got sucked up into any one of these two poles inevitably did not fare as well as what India and people who were in the non-alignment did. Economic and political development, there was no role envisaged for the diasporas. This suggested a policy shift from pre-independence. So there was a policy shift, and more often than not, that think about model diaspora, people, Nehru also wanted to convey to these countries that now that these Indians are in your countries, they would work towards the welfare of your country rather than look at India. So it was possibly a message that was being given out as the subject of the country of the settlement, or who desire to live in the host country should consider themselves as its nationals. Nehru encouraged diasporas to integrate with host countries, but does not encourage to take part in economic. There was possibly a politics to it for a simple reason. This was a newly independent country. It needed all the help, 200 years of colonization. It needed all the help from various countries. And if Nehru started encouraging all those diasporas to, look at India, those countries might have got, they might have feared about the quality or the thing about the diasporas, whether they were a part of their country or they were looking at India. So possibly it could be a political thing also. Also because of the fact that at that time the world over states did not look at diasporas the way they look at it today. In fact, the other day I was meeting this diplomat from a South American country who also made the same statement. He says earlier diasporas, we used to look at our country's diaspora with suspicion, but now we like to integrate them back with the country. But thus not encouraged to take part in economic or political development. However, India did show moral concern towards its diaspora. Have become a permanent resident, must be treated equally with local people, enjoy equal rights, citizenship. India at that moment during that phase was more like a moral, pole star for a whole lot of global South, which were recently independent or were getting their independence. Became a champion of anti-colonialism, fought for liberation in the world from clutches of colonial power, became a source of revival of South Asia. In fact, India was at the forefront against apartheid in South Africa and other causes. overseas Indians to be well integrated in their host countries on carrying out own foreign policy would be purely cultural and humanitarian, but not political. I have a suspicion that possibly because of the way the size of the country and the fact that 200 years of colonization had ruined the country of various things in terms of economics and other things. Nehru did not want to, be politically wrong in his statements. This meant that whatever links were formed in pre-independence area with the overseas political organization had to be loosened now. So he did not want to give wrong messages. Possibly, I mean, I'm second guessing, and I feel that is one of the reasons for how he was able to tie India's independence with such a large, diverse population, with all the princely states, because the integration was happening also at that moment. Issue of diaspora was not raised till 70s by successive governments. Develop any machinery to deal with diaspora question was addressed as bilateral basis with host country government trying to address the problems of, say, for example, the problem of Indian Tamils struck between the fight of Lankan Tamils and the Sinhalese of Sri Lanka. So it was more like was addressed as a bilateral problem rather than a general policy towards diasporas. No machinery was in place. Potential that had as a transnational actor would bring changes at several levels. Cultural, technological was also not realized. So today, again, as I said, as globalization, the mechanism of globalization hit in, all states across the world, including India, realized the power of diasporas in terms of economic, cultural, technological, and political is now being realized, and that's why there's a lot of talk about diaspora integration. In 70s, however, certain voices were raised for the diaspora community when they demanded to take part in elections in India, which was rejected. 78 Indian diaspora in the Gulf demanded representation of Punjab and Kerala state assemblies and overseas India seats in parliament, which is still not there. In fact, a lot of European countries now have diaspora seats in their local parliament and at their state assemblies. But these two was not considered. These one due to the fact that diasporas were exploited in the host countries. They wanted to have security and protection at least by the Indian government. So, the diasporas themselves want to keep that connection because of the fact of an uncertainty in a host country. And if you see again, the situations are happening across the world where there is racism, there is, all kinds of discrimination which is happening. And the diasporas want to, have some sort of a security from the home country. Indian diaspora formed several organizations based on ethnicity, culture, religion, pan-India organization, such as to strengthen their community against racial discrimination, develop unity, participate in political process. Remember, diasporas do come together because they are in alien culture. In India, the Indian diasporas have a particular condition because the Indian diversity gets the diasporas into their own organizations, but these organizations also have a pan India kind of connection, not support from home country. The diaspora sought to help each other to lobby for their interests, which obviously makes sense. Diaspora always get together because as a minority in an alien culture, they would, they want some sort of a lobbying mechanism. In 77, India's diaspora policy took a turn. Now the Indian government started showing interest in diaspora. This was evident when Indian Council of Cultural Relations was made to responsible after the affairs of Indian diaspora. Remember, this was the time when globalization was setting in. If you notice, internet firmly came in the 90s, but the whole liberalization process of India started in the 80s. In fact, the process speeded up in the 90s because of Manmohan Singh and the connectivity, the global connectivity, the faster connectivity. All these things speeded up, which started integrating the diasporas with the state, with the home countries. Department of Overseas Indians that existed in Ministry of Exchequer was revived by the Janta government. At that time, 77, the Janta government, there was a shift of change of government. It was revived for looking into the matters of diaspora groups to study their issues and concerns and address their queries. End of the Cold War in late 80s, a sharp tilt in follow also witnessed, started viewing diaspora as a crucial transnational actors with economic, political, cultural, because remittance were coming and suddenly then and because of faster communication, faster transportation, diasporas became crucial actors. And because of liberalization, now the government looked at diasporas in terms of help for developing the country, coincided with the global process that were being initiated at the time of liberalization, globalization, privatization. So all things were happening together. As I keep telling you and repeating, there is never a deterministic way in which things work. The determinism of possibly new stories happen because it's a reductionist way of saying that because of this factor, things happen. In actual case, it is not just one factor. There are multiple factors at play. And at one point, these factors will come and, things will happen. Also, emigration of the workers increased to the Gulf following the oil boom, migration of highly qualified professionals to Western countries, enhanced political, economic, technological, and social cloud. And also at this particular time, the cloud of the diaspora had also increased. So once the diasporas also realized the fact that their clout had increased in terms of their sending remittances back home, which was helping in the local economy, they were started to push their might in terms of politics. There was increased possibilities of trade, FDI setting up of multinational companies, philanthropy, remittance became a major source of income, started viewing Indian diaspora as an important agent for economic development, and its stance towards the diaspora also changed. Revised diaspora came to define Indian foreign policy. So all these changes were happening parallelly. In 1998, NDA government led by BJP several steps to involve diaspora economically as well as culturally. Increase and could be seen in the Chennai declaration of BJP. Government undertook a number of initiatives, appointed a high-level committee on Indian diaspora, launching the PIO card scheme, conducting Pravasi Bharati Divas, awarding diasporas with Pravasi Bharatiya Samman. Idea is that continuous connection, that conversations which will allow them to engage with the diaspora. Investment, philanthropy, and remittances. Like UK and EU have been important lobby group exercising political pressure on host country. And the state also started realizing that these diasporas are a great source for lobbying in the host country. Indian American lobbying efforts were instrumental in signing the Indo US civil nuclear deal. So if you see today, Fortune 500 companies, there are a lot of Indians heading those Fortune 500 companies. They also lobbied against the Burton Amendment and defeated it in terms of capping of the visas. So diaspora has this, lobbying power. In August 2000, the Indian government made an announcement, constitute a high-level committee in Indian diaspora headed by L.M. Singhvi, studying the strength and weaknesses of diaspora, status of PIOs and NRIs, provisions of constitution regarding diasporas. And obviously, things are changing. Things are changing extremely fast now with this transnational characteristics of the diaspora coming in. globalization puts a lot of pressure and a lot of things change. Committee was further asked to provide recommendation, resolve the problems faced by diaspora, structure or framework for diaspora policy, search for ways to involve diaspora. Now, that's where the local politics also come in, because for a simple reason, if, for example, for any, let's say for an Indian government, it would be a major policy matter to decide whether to allow diasporas to vote in Indian elections or not. Because if the Indian state starts allowing diasporas to vote, there is also a possibility, because it's a huge diaspora population. How does it? How does the domestic politics work? And how would the political parties and the political leaders work with the domestic constituency and the diaspora constituency? So it's a huge policy thing that needs to be, handled. High level committee released its report 2002. Bond between India and diaspora, provide important policy recommendation, opening up a single window to work with NRIs. So if you see today, NRIs can open accounts in Indian banks, they can buy property, they cannot still vote in the elections. Indian state celebrated the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas in 2000, Indian diasporas from across the globe. Saman awards were given. More meaning, Indian government also set up a new Ministry of Overseas India Affairs in 2004. In 16, it was merged with the Ministry of External Affairs. Though inevitably it made more sense to have a separate Ministry of Overseas Affairs, but the government thought it wise to merge both these ministries, because inevitably External Affairs and Overseas Indian Affairs seem to have a lot of synergy. Indian government has been proactively engaging with diasporas, play an important role during elections now. Because for a simple reason, we keep hearing about diaspora, especially in states of Punjab, Kerala. In fact, a lot of other states today, a lot of diasporas coming in where the diasporas canvas for a particular party. In fact, if you've seen, political parties have been very actively engaging with diasporas. We have currently a prime minister who first goes out and meets diaspora. Engagement can mean donations, financial support to political parties in election campaigns. Also form party offices in their respective countries. We have diaspora party offices. There are many schemes that Indian states offer to diaspora: national pension scheme for NRI, scholarship program for diaspora children, community welfare fund, student registration portal, development foundation. Also run many programs on their websites like Know India, Bharat Ki. Minister of External Affairs have also got something called a youth program. It's a 3 week stay for second generation, third generation Indians. Now the government also has promotes protection and welfare by what is called the ECR requirements. Workers emigrating to 18 ACR countries. E-migrate is an electronic platform which makes it mandatory to register so that frauds do not happen. So that, and yet, irrespective of this, we see that human trafficking happens. We had a case of women from Punjab who were trafficked into the Gulf states. And we regularly keep getting these news stories of agents taking advantage of people. Because again, with India, which I keep repeating, a huge country with a huge population and a very diverse population. And then there is illiteracy and so on and so forth. So it's mandatory to register ECR workers through registering registered recruiting agents. Interconnected key stakeholders of recruitment and immigration process, such as Protector General of Immigrant, agents, Passport Seva Bureau of Immigration, safe and legal migration. So, in fact, I think I have, yeah, that is the website. This is the website called eMigrate. This is the e-migrate website, which has, if you see, there is an immigrant, employer, project exporter, recruiting agent, resources, payments, office orders, welfare schemes, directory, and you have a registered user login, transformative initiative of Ministry of External Affairs aimed at making immigration process easy. If anybody has used this or has come across somebody who has used it, can share. I have no idea how effective it is. Is it able to cater, or is the website? In fact, a lot of government website always has user interface problem. It's not very user comfortable in terms of how it goes about. So I have no idea. So if you come across somebody who's used a site or somebody who has done some research on this e-migrate site, well, or you could, any one of you, in case are looking at writing a paper on the e-migrant migrate website. So you can go through the website and put out your,
I
findings.
can I can add on, sir.
Yeah, who's that?
Ujjwal.
Ujjwal, bolo.
Okay, so while I was working at embassy, so the people who are going to immigrate for work purposes, means as a laborer, a skilled or unskilled.
Okay.
So they were supposed to register first of all and attach a copy of the registration details along with the application.
Okay.
So the agencies ensure that the immigration or the migration that is happening is being documented. But the site is crashing in between.
Oh.
So at times it will take means 2 or 3 hours to get refreshed, to get to fetch any information about the person or the applicant who has registered.
Ujjwal, why don't you write a story on this?
Sorry, sir.
Why don't you write a paper on this?
On this site?
Yes, the
I can.
site and the usage of the site based on your experience.
Okay, I can try.
So what you can do is, whatever you have, the experience that you have faced, what you are telling me right now, that is a single experience. If you can write it as a case study in as many words as you want, don't worry about the formatting, grammar, and etc. Put it in a Word document and write down your 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10 or 20 cases that you've gone, individual cases. If you can put the names of the people, or you can change names and say for privacy and all that. Make a Word document and send it to me.
Okay.
I can
I will be
help
doing
you.
so.
I can help you in formulating that story, and that story can be sent to one of the digital publishing places, and it can come out as a story from you.
Okay, sir. I will be doing the same.
Okay, great. So see, there are, when you look at various subcomponents of migration and diaspora, and then look at policy, there are so many different components to it, and each component can be looked at as a paper, because see, what is the role of scholarly and academic pursuits? One of the reasons of scholarly and academic pursuits obviously is to further your career, get a better job, and so on and so forth. But there is another thing, that scholarly and academic pursuits are the way policymakers or general public is able to get information on particular thing. See, it is actually a large part of research which is done in universities in various countries, which actually leads to changes in policy, which looks at people educating themselves on particular issues, and anyone can look at any component and see what it is based on their experience or from the research. So Ujjwal, as much information as you can put it in this Word file in terms of what your experience is, particular case of this person walking in, he or she was going for this particular job, and this required these kind of documents, but this is what was happening. That would become, it could be either a journalistic story or a paper which could be presented in a conference.
Sure, sir. I will try to document it.
Yeah. So and don't worry about English or grammar or whether it is making sense. Whatever you are able to recall in terms of your memory and your experience and the particular cases, just note it down and keep writing it in the Word file. The refinement and editing can keep happen in the later stage.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. And even
Yes.
other people, if they want to write something like this, they have had a particular set of experiences, please write. Write it in a Word file. You want to share it with me, I can add my inputs. We can always reach out to Sada sir also to see his inputs, and it can be published in any one of the journals. It can be pushed in a news site. All these publishing helps and makes one feel good in terms of contribution as well as academic and scholarly pursuit. So this is an e-migrate site. In fact, they have all these advisories. Again, as I beforehand said, I have not used the site, so I do not know. The website might look very good in terms of the content, but do the links function? Are they user friendly? Can only be known once you use a site. And inevitably, after using the site, if something is not working, uh, unfortunately, a lot of government websites do not have some sort of a mechanism whereby if there's a problem, how to address that problem. So the processes are not established, and that's why good intents always also sometimes do not get the required result. So, for example, there's an advisory for job seekers in Cambodia and SCA about fake jobs involving cyber crimes. Uh, so, one has to go through it to figure out what it is. So, let's sum up. Diaspora policy has been changing since colonial time. British government who started the system didn't pay much attention. And why would they? Their objective was for the colonized people to work in their in wherever they want to send them as bonded labor. They wanted labor so that the profits is being taken up by the initially the East India Company and then by the British government. The nationalists, however, are concerned about its diaspora, undertook a number of initiatives against their exploitation and violation of rights. Post-independence shift was seen as the diaspora community to consider their host country as their nations. Since 70s, government changed and started viewing diaspora as important actors. These are the references India's diaspora policy. So if you see, GRFDT is also a site where if you have worked in diaspora or migration, or there is certain aspect that you want to write about, you can get it published. GRFDT, Sada sir is a part of GRFDT. In fact, he was one of the initiators. So it can be easily published in GRFDT. You will have a published piece. There's a MC Lal, India's Missed Opportunity, Relationship with Non-Resident Indians. Then there is an Immigration, Emigration and Diaspora Relation India Migration Policy Institute, and there's a website. Okay, let me stop sharing. Let me switch on my video. Hi guys. Any questions? Anything that you'd like to share? So, Ujjwal, whenever you get the time, you can start this, particular document in terms of the website. I can help you with the premise and so on and so forth. But just write down whatever you have and email it to me, and we can exchange. We can talk on the mail.
Sure, sir.
And anybody else who wish to write any article, I will again share my email ID. You can send it to me. I can give you my inputs.
Sir, good evening.
Hi, Swadesh.
Hi, namaste.
Namaste.
Sir, you said discussed more about last 10 minutes e-migrant portal.
Huh.
That portal taking only EC or passport holders data only, not ECNR. you and me professionals going to abroad, they cannot tracking by the e-migrant portal.
Cannot.
Yeah, there is a lacuna. If
Okay.
someone going to Dubai, UAE,
Hmm.
in visiting visa, then he is searching a job there.
Hmm.
That people cannot track tracking by this e-migrant
Okay.
portal.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Well,
again, the recruiting agents, are they vetted by the e-migrate portal? What happens if somebody is blacklisted? Does the e-migrate portal track that and blacklists those recruiting agents?
Yes, if there is any problem faced by the worker or the migrant who is going through any company,
Uh,
so if he is not getting paid enough or the basis that was promised to him,
hmm.
so for sure they will be getting blacklisted, and the Ministry of External Affairs will communicate the same thing to other countries, other counterparts as
Okay.
well.
Okay. Okay.
European Union countries to blacklist that particular agency from their
Okay.
portal as well.
Okay. So, Ujjwal, you take this, this comments by Swadesh in terms of if a person goes visiting and then searches for job,
Mhm.
that is not being able to, get mapped onto the portal anywhere.
Yes, sir.
So you can directly connect with Swadesh.
Mhm.
You both can, kind of, exchange numbers on your group, talk to him. He will give you input. Swadesh is again works on the ground, so he has a lot of information and he has a lot of connection. So you can get inputs from each other.
Okay, sir.
Any other question? We still have a minute or two. In fact, we have 8 more minutes for the class to finish. If there's any other question, you can tell me now. For people who have come in late, Domingos is a person in our class is from Mozambique, and next week, before we start our presentation, Domingos is going to tell us a little bit about Mozambique. He's also going to be he's been in India for the last 3 years. So he will share an immigrant experience, a Mozambique immigrant experience in India, what he the good and bad part in the last 3 years. So that would be a great perspective, an African perspective, which see again, as I said, multiple perspectives is what enriches us to understand migrants, diasporas, what it feels to be in another country, how the other country and its people, understand, engage, and so on and so forth. So Domingos is going to be presenting this next Saturday. Any other question? So if there is no other question, then you have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful week ahead. I'll see you next Saturday at 3 o'clock with Unit 45. As I said, we are doing this MDI 005 on social, political, and policy aspects of diasporas. So we will see a little bit about visa and immigration to US, Canada, Malaysia. That's how the unit is. Yeah, who's that? Hello? Somebody said something?
So
Okay.
thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.